While the world was still reeling from the shock of Princess Diana's sudden passing, another unexpected blow hit in February 2002 with the death of Princess Margaret. Known for her rebellious nature and dislike of following royal rules, it's no surprise that Margaret's lifestyle often caused tension within the royal family. Throughout her life, she was at the center of many scandals, which she openly admitted to the younger royals. Despite all the drama, her sudden death was still a major loss, not just for the royal family, but for the world. However, it's worth noting that despite her wishes, senior royal members decided to go ahead with a formal funeral for her. Let's take a look at Princess Margaret's final days. The younger sister of Queen Elizabeth II, Margaret lived a life full of both privilege and health struggles. By the time she passed away at 71, her health had seriously declined, with her ongoing issues becoming a public concern. One of the key moments in her health journey came in 1993 when she was hospitalized with severe pneumonia. This illness kicked off a long line of health problems that would follow her for the rest of her life. 5 years later, in 1998, she had her first stroke, which impacted her ability to speak, a devastating blow for someone known for her sharp wit and eloquence. Sadly, that was only the start. Over the following years, Margaret's health continued to worsen. Her third stroke left her partially paralyzed, adding to the mobility problems she had already been facing after injuring her foot earlier. The decline in her health led to a lot of speculation and criticism from the public and the press. Some critics pointed fingers at Princess Margaret's past habits, like excessive drinking and smoking, suggesting that her health problems were a result of a lifestyle filled with indulgence. While it's true that Margaret enjoyed her share of alcohol and cigarettes, close friends and confidants were quick to defend her character. One anonymous friend, quoted by The Guardian, explained that her use of these substances wasn't unusual for someone from her generation. They also suggested that as her life grew more difficult, her consumption might have increased as a way of coping with the personal tragedies she'd faced. By the late 1990s, those closest to Margaret said she was making real efforts to cut back on alcohol and tobacco, even giving them up altogether. She seemed to shift her focus toward her family, particularly her grandchildren, finding comfort and joy in their company. Despite these efforts to improve her health, Margaret's condition continued to worsen. Her last public appearance, a moving moment, was at Princess Alice's 100th birthday celebration just before Christmas in 2001, where she was seen in a wheelchair. Sadly, just a few months later, in February 2002, Princess Margaret passed away. The official cause of death was complications from another stroke. Her passing as a prominent member of the British royal family led to an outpouring of sympathy from all over the world. The following day, Prime Minister Tony Blair gave a heartfelt tribute, expressing his condolences on behalf of the nation. Political leaders from all major parties in Britain also echoed these sentiments, showing the widespread nature of the mourning. Religious figures joined in as well, with the Archbishop of Canterbury and Pope John Paul II, representing the Anglican and Catholic faiths, offering their condolences to the royal family. Even Rabbi Dr. Jonathan Roma, a prominent Jewish leader, expressed his sympathy for their loss. Princess Margaret's life had a far-reaching impact, touching many different communities, including various religious groups. One particularly heartfelt tribute came from then Prince Charles, who, in a video message shared by the Associated Press, paid a deeply personal homage to his beloved aunt. In his touching message, he fondly recalled his childhood, where he admired Princess Margaret's exceptional musical talents. He also highlighted her free-spirited nature, noting how her vibrant personality had won the affection of many. Prince Charles didn't shy away from addressing the challenges the family faced as a result of Margaret's strokes, acknowledging the emotional toll it had taken on everyone. He extended his condolences to others who might be dealing with similar struggles in their own families. This recognition of the royal family's vulnerabilities humanized them in the eyes of the public, creating a sense of connection between the monarchy and everyday people. However, the outpouring of grief following Princess Margaret's death, while sincere, didn't quite match the emotional intensity seen after the deaths of other key royal figures like Princess Diana or the Queen Mother. The reaction was notable for its scale and media coverage, reflecting both Princess Margaret's unique position within the royal family and the evolving public sentiment. Princess Diana's death in 1997 had sparked an unprecedented wave of mourning, drawing global attention and a massive outpouring of grief. The public, the media, and world leaders were all deeply affected by her sudden passing. Likewise, when the Queen Mother passed away later in 2002, it triggered a profound emotional response from the British public, given her long and iconic role in the monarchy. In contrast to the outpouring of grief following other royal deaths, Princess Margaret's passing didn't generate quite the same level of fervor. Some members of the British public seemed a bit confused, with reports suggesting that a few people weren't sure whether it was Princess Margaret or the Queen Mother who had passed away. Others admitted they didn't have much knowledge or memory of Princess Margaret's life or her contributions to the royal family and society. However, for those who did appreciate Princess Margaret's life and legacy, their respect was shown in meaningful ways. Some left flowers at Kensington Palace as a tribute, while others signed a book of condolences at St. James's Palace, sharing their sympathies and feelings about her passing. Princess Margaret's funeral on February 15, 2002, marked the end of a period of mourning following her death on February 9th. The 6-day gap allowed time for the necessary arrangements and preparations to be made to honor her. During this time, her coffin was kept at St. James's Palace in London. Before the coffin was moved, her sister, Queen Elizabeth II, paid a private visit to say a final goodbye. This intimate moment highlighted the close bond between the two sisters, giving Queen Elizabeth a chance to grieve in private. This visit also marked the Queen's first public appearance since Margaret's death. She showed her dedication to her family's loss by attending to personal matters before returning to her regular royal duties. Throughout the mourning period, the Queen wore black, a traditional symbol of grief and respect. The funeral procession for Princess Margaret was a solemn and dignified affair, marked by a sense of respect and reverence for the life she had lived. Her coffin was draped with a flag bearing her personal standard, a symbol of her unique position within the royal family. Beautiful white flowers adorned the coffin, symbolizing purity, remembrance, and the enduring impact of her life. The procession was carried out with precision and care, as Princess Margaret's body was transported to St. James's Palace in a hearse, with 2 pipers leading the way, adding a ceremonial touch that underscored the importance of the occasion. One of the pipers who participated in the procession was the Queen's Pipe Major, a significant figure within the royal circle, and together the 2 pipers performed the Sky Boat Song, a hauntingly beautiful and fitting tune for such a momentous event. The mournful melody seemed to echo the sadness of the occasion as the procession slowly made its way through the streets, a testament to the deep respect held for Princess Margaret. When it came to public mourning, Princess Margaret's death prompted a somewhat quieter and more restrained response from ordinary citizens compared to the emotional outpouring that followed the death of other royals, such as Princess Diana. While there were certainly some who visited St. James's Palace to pay their respects and leave flowers, the overall level of public grief did not reach the same intense levels. This was perhaps indicative of Princess Margaret's more reserved public persona and her position within the royal family, which, although important, was not as prominent as that of her sister, Queen Elizabeth II. In the digital age, new methods of paying tribute emerged. The royal family's official website offered a platform for online condolences, allowing mourners to leave messages of sympathy and even make donations to the various charitable causes Princess Margaret had supported throughout her life. This modern way of mourning gave people around the world an opportunity to express their grief and honor her memory in a meaningful and lasting way. In the political realm, the House of Commons observed a minute of silence in recognition of Princess Margaret's significance, both within the royal family and in the history of the nation. This gesture demonstrated the respect she had earned over the years despite her more private and sometimes controversial life. The minute of silence served as a formal acknowledgement of her contributions and legacy, adding a political dimension to the national mourning. What set Princess Margaret's funeral apart, however, was her own distinctive and unconventional approach to her funeral arrangements. Unlike many members of the royal family, it is believed that Princess Margaret played an active role in planning her funeral. She made a conscious decision to break from tradition in certain respects, ensuring that her final wishes would be honored. One of the most notable decisions was her choice to be cremated, a departure from royal custom, as no royal family member had opted for cremation since Princess Louise in 1939. Princess Margaret's decision was largely influenced by her desire to be laid to rest alongside her father, King George VI, in the royal vault at St. George's Chapel in Windsor Castle. Traditional burial would not have allowed this arrangement, as it would have taken up the space intended for future royals. By choosing cremation, she ensured that she could be interred next to her father, fulfilling a personal wish that spoke to the enduring bond between them. Additionally, Princess Margaret was reportedly not fond of the alternative burial site, Frogmore, the resting place of Queen Victoria. According to Lady Glenconner, one of Princess Margaret's closest friends and lady-in-waiting, the princess found Frogmore to be gloomy and somber, not the ideal resting place for someone who had always been associated with elegance and charm. Instead, Princess Margaret's decision to be cremated and placed next to her father at St. George's Chapel reflected her desire for a more fitting and personal end. Her final resting place thus became not only a symbol of her wishes, but also a reflection of her independent spirit and determination to shape her legacy in the royal family. Princess Margaret's cremation took place at a local crematorium in Slough, which was quite a departure from the grandeur usually associated with royal ceremonies. On February 15th, the same day as her funeral, her cremation was one of 6 scheduled services at the crematorium. Normally, the facility would conduct around 15 services a day, but it was a quieter day than usual. In an open interview with the Scotsman Registrar Roger Parkin, expressed his hope that the other families who had cremations that day wouldn't be disrupted by Princess Margaret's service, stressing the importance of maintaining a respectful and calm process for everyone. Meanwhile, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who had become famous for her incredible longevity, was facing health challenges as she reached 101. Her resilience had always been admired, but it had become clear that her health was declining. By the time she celebrated her 101st birthday, she was no longer able to make public appearances as she had in her younger days. On that milestone, she greeted well-wishers from a buggy, a stark contrast to her previously active and lively presence. In December 2001, the Queen Mother caught a lingering cold, which only worsened her already frail health. Then, just 2 days before Princess Margaret's funeral on February 13th, she fell at Sandringham, the royal estate in Norfolk. Sandringham is nearly 3 hours away from Windsor, where the funeral was to be held. Given her fragile state and the challenges of such a long journey, reports suggested that her doctors advised against her attending. Their concern was rooted in her advanced age and the risks of exacerbating her health issues by making the trip. Additionally, it was reported that both her grandson, Prince Charles, and her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, discouraged her from going, likely out of concern for her well-being. It's clear that the Queen Mother's family, including her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, and her grandson, Prince Charles, were genuinely concerned for her health and safety during such a tough time of mourning. Even though doctors advised against travel and her family tried to convince her to stay, the Queen Mother was determined to be there for Princess Margaret's funeral. To ease the strain of the long journey, she decided to take an RAF helicopter from Sandringham to Windsor, cutting down the travel time and making it easier on her frail condition. The use of a helicopter highlighted the royal family's access to modern transport, even for such personal moments. Special arrangements were made to ensure her comfort and privacy during the funeral service. An ambulance was on standby just in case, and the Queen Mother requested that she not be seen in a wheelchair, even by the attendees at the church. This attention to detail was a way to protect her dignity during a challenging time. Her presence at Princess Margaret's funeral was a testament to the Queen Mother's deep love and family bond. Despite her frailty, she fought through the physical challenges to honor her daughter, showing just how much her role as a mother meant to her. Sadly, just over a month after Margaret's funeral, the Queen Mother passed away. She was laid to rest in the royal vault of St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, beside her husband, King George VI, and her daughter. While the funeral of Princess Margaret was supposed to be more private, the funeral of the Queen Mother garnered a great deal more attention and interest from the general public. This event marked the conclusion of a spectacular life that spanned century after century. Margaret's funeral, on the other hand, was a private affair, yet it nevertheless had the weight of royal significance. It was a more intimate gathering, with approximately 450 mourners in attendance, which reflected her more private personality, even within the royal family. The funeral of Princess Margaret was attended by members of the royal family, several hundred members of the general public who had congregated outside Windsor Castle, and a few additional individuals who had known and respected the princess. In the context of royal funerals, the guest list may appear to be quite extensive, yet it was actually quite relatively modest. This is especially true when compared to the enormous public outpouring that occurred during the funeral of Princess Diana a few years earlier. The funeral for Princess Margaret was far more quiet, and the smaller audience that gathered outside Windsor Castle was a reflection of the intimate and understated nature of the event. When compared to the far higher number of people who attended the funeral and the public reception that the Queen Mother would eventually get in the same year, this was a striking difference. Royal family members, including Princess Margaret's children and other members of the royal family, as well as her ex-husband, Lord Snowdon, who came to pay their respects for the life they had shared together, were among those who attended the funeral service. In order to highlight Princess Margaret's unwavering commitment to the arts throughout her whole life, the poet laureate Andrew Motion was asked to write a poem in her honor. It is a testament to the princess's unwavering support of the artistic community that a significant number of those who attended the funeral were musicians and artists. Following the service, the congregation reassembled at Windsor Castle for tea, which is a traditionally consoling activity that takes place after events of such a sad nature. According to Princess Margaret's wishes, her coffin was not accompanied by any royal children or sovereign sisters when it was transported to the crematorium in Slough. This was one of the factors that contributed to the funeral being exceptionally private. An unusually small number of her staff members were present, which was a significant break from the typical grandeur that is associated with royal funerals. She wanted a more intimate and less flashy send-off, and her more subtle farewell conveyed that goal well. Princess Margaret's ashes were later deposited in the royal vault in St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, alongside those of her mother, Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, on the day after she was cremated. This took place on the second day after her cremation. This event represented the peaceful and personal finish of her last voyage across the world. Despite the fact that they were separated by 4 years, Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Margaret shared a sibling connection that was lasting and complicated throughout their entire lives. This relationship was distinguished by affection as well as hardships. Personal experiences, royal responsibilities, and the pressures of public life all contributed to the development of their dynamic over the course of many years. When they were young, Princess Margaret and Queen Elizabeth II had a special and extremely intimate relationship that was practically identical to that of twins. Their youth was replete with the benefits and comforts that come with being royalty, but they did not have to bear the immediate burden of the monarchy that their father, King George VI, had to carry. As a result of the absence of direct succession obligations, the two sisters were able to develop a particularly close relationship with one another, free from the pressures that would later come to define their roles as royal officials. Princess Margaret, in particular, was fond of calling her sister Liliette, a family nickname that symbolized the warmth and closeness that they had within their inner family circle. This nickname was given to her by Princess Margaret. However, when the sisters got older, their connection started to shift in a different direction. In 1936, their uncle, King Edward VIII, abdicated his throne, which was the key incident that transformed the relationship between them. As a result of this momentous occurrence, Princess Elizabeth, who would later become Queen Elizabeth II, was elevated to the position of heir to the British throne. This elevated her to a position of authority and responsibility, which ultimately led to her becoming the monarch. This change in their jobs, along with the growing burden of royal responsibilities, added a further complicated element to their relationship, which marked the beginning of the divergent routes that the two would travel throughout their lives apart. In her role as the future monarch, Queen Elizabeth II cultivated a manner that became identified with stoicism, discipline, and the embodiment of the expectations of the monarchy. She came to be seen as the epitome of the perfect queen, known for her unwavering composure and emotional reserve. Princess Margaret, on the other hand, was frequently perceived as being more outgoing and prone to seeking the spotlight, all of which contributed to her more flamboyant public demeanor. Even though Queen Elizabeth II officially backed her sister, their relationship at times became tense due to the fact that their personalities and public reputations were so different from one another. Reportedly, Princess Margaret struggled with feelings of envy and resentment, particularly when she found herself frequently overshadowed by her sister's more quiet and dignified appearance. This was especially true when she found herself in situations where she was frequently overshadowed by her sister. Throughout the years, their relationship as siblings grew increasingly characterized by the opposing positions that they played within the royal family. This created a balance between affection and the tension that was already present. Princess Margaret's relationship with Group Captain Peter Townsend, a man who had previously been divorced, was one of the most significant factors that contributed to the tension that existed between them. Due to the fact that Queen Elizabeth II was involved in the process of managing the situation, this relationship, which was regarded as controversial at the time, caused that relationship to become strained. In spite of the public and media perception of difficulties, royal biographer Andrew Morton stated that Queen Elizabeth II was really more supportive of her sister's choices than is commonly recognized. This demonstrates that their relationship was not totally influenced by the pressures of royalty. In the year 2002, Queen Elizabeth II was bereaved of both her sister, Princess Margaret, and her mother, the Queen Mother. Both of these individuals had passed away. Immediately upon the passing of her mother, the Queen expressed her gratitude to the general public for their condolences, but she did not name her sister in her statement. As a result of the fact that it caused her to shed tears, it was believed that she abstained from communicating personally about Princess Margaret. One of the few occasions in which Queen Elizabeth II publicly expressed emotion was during the funeral for Princess Margaret, which took place earlier that year. While the world was still reeling from the shock of Princess Diana's sudden passing, another unexpected blow hit in February 2002 with the death of Princess Margaret. Known for her rebellious nature and dislike of following royal rules, it's no surprise that Margaret's lifestyle often caused tension within the royal family. Throughout her life, she was at the center of many scandals, which she openly admitted to the younger royals. Despite all the drama, her sudden death was still a major loss, not just for the royal family, but for the world. However, it's worth noting that despite her wishes, senior royal members decided to go ahead with a formal funeral for her. Let's take a look at Princess Margaret's final days. The younger sister of Queen Elizabeth II, Margaret lived a life full of both privilege and health struggles. By the time she passed away at 71, her health had seriously declined, with her ongoing issues becoming a public concern. One of the key moments in her health journey came in 1993 when she was hospitalized with severe pneumonia. This illness kicked off a long line of health problems that would follow her for the rest of her life. 5 years later, in 1998, she had her first stroke, which impacted her ability to speak, a devastating blow for someone known for her sharp wit and eloquence. Sadly, that was only the start. Over the following years, Margaret's health continued to worsen. Her third stroke left her partially paralyzed, adding to the mobility problems she had already been facing after injuring her foot earlier. The decline in her health led to a lot of speculation and criticism from the public and the press. Some critics pointed fingers at Princess Margaret's past habits, like excessive drinking and smoking, suggesting that her health problems were a result of a lifestyle filled with indulgence. While it's true that Margaret enjoyed her share of alcohol and cigarettes, close friends and confidants were quick to defend her character. One anonymous friend, quoted by The Guardian, explained that her use of these substances wasn't unusual for someone from her generation. They also suggested that as her life grew more difficult, her consumption